Okay, so we're diving deep today, and this time you've brought some really, really interesting stuff. It's this transcript from a Women's History Month Bible study.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty fascinating stuff, actually. It dives into the story of this really intriguing figure and the whole idea of good works, what those really are.
Yeah, good works. That's what we're exploring today.
Right.
Right. So this is from let me see, a YouTube transcript of a study led by someone connected to First Baptist Church of Glenarden, it looks like.
That's right. And their whole focus, you can really see it, is on discipleship, which their pastor, Reverend John K. Jenkins, is always talking about.
Yeah.
And they used Acts chapter 9, verse 36 as their jumping off point, to explore what it actually means to do good works.
Okay, so basically everyone listening right now, your mission, if you choose to accept it, and I think you will, is to come along with us as we kind of unpack all the insights from this study, right? We want to help you get the significance of these good works without getting lost in the weeds.
Yeah. Exactly. Think of it as like the express lane to understanding, just the core ideas without all the extra stuff.
Love that. Okay, so at the center of all this is this woman named Tabitha, also known by her Greek name Dorcas.
Right. And the speaker in the study, she points out that Tabitha is described as a certain disciple in Joppa.
Okay.
And it's actually pretty interesting that she's got both the Aramaic name Tabitha, which means gazelle, and the Greek equivalent Dorcas.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it makes you think, she was probably connected to and respected by both the Jewish community there and the wider Greek-speaking folks,
Yeah, that makes sense.
It suggests she had a wider reach than you might think at first.
Yeah, definitely broader influence, for sure.
Yeah.
So, okay, what really stood out to me, and this is something the study leader pointed out too, is how we don't get a ton of background info on Tabitha. The usual stuff like family history or personal details.
Yeah, it's true. We just don't get that.
Instead, the story just zeroes in on what she did, her actions.
Exactly. It's all about her actions. All right, so let's dive into this idea of good works then. How does the source lay it all out?
Well, right away, the speaker makes this distinction between what they call good works and public works, which I thought was really interesting.
Okay, I like that.
The point is, good works aren't about putting on a show. It's not about getting attention or accolades.
It's not about bragging.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's deeper than that. It's about why you're doing something.
Yeah, there's that contrast the speaker makes between people who are full of good words, all talk but no action.
Yeah, she actually says, talk a good game.
I love that. And then the people who are actually full of good works, they're the ones out there making things happen.
Yeah, it's the whole actions speak louder than words thing.
Exactly. Okay, so the source is basically saying good works are like this way of showing your faith, actually living it out and being obedient to God's commands.
Exactly. And to back that up, they bring in Matthew 5:16, which says, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven.
Right, so we're supposed to let our light shine.
Yes. And it's important to note that the study points out that Jesus is the ultimate light.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Our actions should reflect his light out in the world.
Interesting. Okay, so then the study brings up Ephesians 2:10, and I think this is where things get really fascinating.
It's a great verse. It says, for we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus, to do good works, which God prepared in advance as our way of life.
Wow, so it's like it's already planned out for us.
That's exactly what the speaker emphasizes. It's not a suggestion. It's presented as a path laid out for believers.
Like a predetermined route almost.
Yeah, or like you said, a specific assignment for each person.
I like that, a tailored assignment. That shifts the focus from just trying to be a good person in general to something much more intentional and personal.
Right, it becomes uniquely yours. And the speaker even ties this into the Great Commission, for Matthew 28, where it talks about making disciples.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
So it's not just about individual acts of kindness, but also playing a part in this bigger mission, you know?
Wow. Okay, so then this raises the question, if good works are so important, what's their connection to our faith?
Yeah.
How does the source address this?
Well, they bring in James 2:17, which says, so too, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Makes it very clear that faith isn't meant to be passive. It has to lead to actions that line up with God's will.
So it's not just about going through the motions.
Exactly. It's about genuine faith put into practice.
Not just flesh work, as the speaker calls it.
Right. It can't be about selfish motives or just trying to impress people.
And to make sure our hearts are in the right place, the speaker talks about the importance of self-reflection.
Yeah. They reference Ecclesiastes 12:14, where it talks about every work being judged.
Right, so it's like a constant check-in.
Exactly.
Mm.
We need to ask ourselves, are we doing things for the right reasons?
Okay, so now for a really crucial point, and the speaker in the study hits this hard. The relationship between good works and salvation.
This is huge. We have to be clear on that.
Right, it's fundamental. So let's break it down.
The study's very clear. Good works do not get you into heaven.
Okay, good works don't equal salvation.
Exactly. Salvation is seen as forgiveness of sins and eternal life. And it's only possible through faith in Jesus Christ, his death, burial, and resurrection.
Right, it's about believing in Jesus.
Yes. The speaker even brings up John 14:6 and Titus 3:5 to show that it's all about God's mercy, not because of anything we've done.
So that's a huge takeaway. Good works don't save us. So what's their purpose then?
Well, the source says good works are what come after someone develops a relationship with God.
Okay.
They're like the fruit, the evidence of life transformed by that relationship.
So not a prerequisite, but a result.
Exactly. The speaker actually uses a great analogy.
Oh, I love a good analogy.
They say it's like an apple tree. An apple tree doesn't grow apples to become an apple tree. It produces apples because it's an apple tree.
Oh, that's good. I like
So
that.
the apples are a natural result of what it already is.
Yeah, that really clarifies things. So good works flow from a changed heart.
Exactly.
They're a response to God's grace, not a way to earn it.
Right. On the money.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we understand what good works are and what they aren't, let's look at Tabitha's life. What kind of things did she do?
Yeah, what are some examples?
Well, the Bible tells us she was full of good works and charitable deeds and rich in acts of kindness and charity.
Sounds like a pretty amazing person.
She was always helping those around her, especially widows and people who were struggling, those without family support, those who needed clothes, basic necessities. She had a heart for those considered the least of these.
That's really powerful. And the speaker in the study makes a point of saying giving isn't always about money.
Absolutely. It's also about our time, our skills, our hands and feet, she says, and even our health.
Yeah, we can give in so many different ways.
Right. She actually brings up Sister Bernadette and Sister Myrtle as examples of people who gave of themselves in practical ways.
Well, that's a good point.
What I found insightful was the connection the speaker made to Deuteronomy 24:19. You know that Old Testament idea about leaving some of the harvest for those in need?
Yeah.
She applies that to our lives today, saying we shouldn't use up everything we have on ourselves.
Right, we should leave some for others.
Exactly. Even a little comment she makes about someone's shopping habits drives home that point. Don't be totally self-focused.
It's a good reminder. Okay, so this ties into the idea of good works reflecting God's character, right?
Yes, it does. And then the study brings in Galatians 5:22 and 23, which talks about the fruit of the Spirit.
Ah, yes. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control.
All of that. These are the qualities that should come naturally from a life lived in line with the Spirit.
Right. So good works are a manifestation of those qualities.
Exactly. And the speaker points out the difference between doing outwardly good things, but with a bad attitude,
Yeah, that's so important.
versus actually embodying the fruit of the Spirit. It's not just about the act itself, but the heart behind it.
It's about the why, not just the what.
Right. You got it. And this all connects to the idea of loving our neighbor, like in the parable of the Good Samaritan.
Luke chapter 10.
Yes, it's about going beyond just those we're close to and helping those in need, even when it's tough or inconvenient.
Right. Extending ourselves beyond our comfort zones.
Exactly. The speaker even talks about how some people might be tempted to ignore or judge others.
Yeah, it's easy to do that.
But we're called to show God's love to everyone.
So important. Okay, so now looking at the bigger picture, the study talks about the eternal significance of good works.
This is really profound when you think about it.
It is. So what does the source say about this?
It emphasizes that our good works have lasting value. They matter for eternity, and they're like recorded somewhere.
Oh, it's like a heavenly record.
Yeah. The speaker uses the image of the books mentioned in Revelation.
Wow.
And they bring up 1 Corinthians 3:13 and 14, which explains that our works will be tested to see their true quality.
Oh, wow. Like a quality control check.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not about how many things we do or how impressive they look. It's about the motivation behind them.
So again, it's the why, not the what.
Exactly. The focus is on the heart. And this is echoed in Revelation 14:13, which says, their deeds will follow them.
Wow. Powerful stuff.
It really shows how our actions have an impact beyond this life.
Yeah, that's something to think about for sure. And the speaker drives this home with a powerful statement. only what you do for God will last.
That's really something to ponder, isn't it?
It really is.
Oh.
So to sum it all up for you, our listener, this deep dive into the study of Tabitha has shown us that good works are way more than just being nice.
Yeah, they're not just random acts of kindness.
Right. They're presented as this vital expression of our faith, a way to show God's character to the world.
And they matter eternally.
Yes, but, and this is key, they don't save us.
No, they don't.
Tabitha, or Dorcas, is this incredible example of a life lived out through good works.
Yeah, she's a real inspiration. So this leads us to a final thought for you to chew on. What about your good works? What drives your actions? Who benefits from what you do? What kind of impact are you making? The source even mentions the idea of greater works. What would those look like in your life?
And to build on that, and this is inspired by the study itself, we want to challenge you. Over the next week, can you find a way to serve or encourage someone that really shows kindness and compassion? As the speaker in the study says, your actions might be the most tangible experience of love that person encounters.
And finally, the source reminds us that each of you has a purpose. Embrace that and keep pursuing good works as part of your journey. Let go of anything holding you back. Like it says in Hebrews 12:1.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
This has been a really good one. Thanks for bringing this to the table.
My pleasure. Always happy to dive deep with you.
Until next time, folks, keep those good works going.
And keep reflecting that light.
Yes, exactly.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.